This is a short story about a long process. It's a story about Aladino, Magic Carpet's caretaker, and my husband. It's a story about an old boat, and the love required to keep her going.
I go from here.
Last week, we removed Magic Carpet's old leaky teak decks. They came off beautifully, lifting off in one piece, thanks to the fact that no glue had been used underneath, both a blessing and a curse in our case. A blessing because we could remove them so effortlessly, and a curse because all the screws holding the teak down were the source of the problem. There were 842 screws holding down this deck, and that means 842 holes to close up now that the teak is gone. And that wasn't the only problem.
I am happy about removing the teak, but that still has not gotten rid of the silicone. There is silicone everywhere. Oh man, the silicone. I hate the silicone.
Yeah.
So I am taking away the silicone now, but the oils are still in the wood. So I really hope that we are able to get rid of them before we start painting or varnishing here. And I hope we get a good result, especially around this seam here. The silicone has been there forever. The oils are seeped into the wood. And that's what's gotten me worried. We'll see how that goes.
Okay. Silicone is a boat builder's worst nightmare, and the teak had been marinating in it for 45 years. We would have to do an extremely thorough job of removing every last trace of silicone to have any hope of applying paint and varnish.
Guess what it was bedded with?
Silicone?
Ugh. After that, I wiped everything multiple times with acetone, turned the rag over many times, changed out rags many times to really get rid of every visible particle of silicone. After that, I scrubbed the hull with a Scotch-Brite and acetone to again make sure there are no particles, and then probably I wiped a few more times.
And by the hull, you mean the deck?
The deck, yes.
Yes.
The main goal here is really to remove as much silicone as possible. After that, I took the drill and the countersink and I went over every hole and I drilled a V shape into them. So that is giving me a bigger surface and a prepared surface. It's exposing glass, which is giving the epoxy that I'm filling the holes with a better adhesion. So that is the next step now. I will mix a batch of epoxy and then fill out all the holes.
Suddenly, the world I used to know, I see it differently. You woke me from a dream, now here's reality. Baby, baby, you are really hurting me. 'Cause every time you tell me I look good in bed, I'm doing fine, but nothing ever changes. And now I see, baby, you are hurting me. Stuck in repeat. Stop lying. I know you're playing your part, but baby, it's breaking my heart. How could I know? If you don't need me, just let me know when I go.
Fortunately, it doesn't seem like much of the deck core actually got wet, so we won't have to do any major surgery on the deck itself.
Believe that you could could be my destiny. Baby, baby, you are really hurting me.
Now the deck isn't the only thing on the agenda. There's also a lot of varnishing ahead, building up layers of color, protection, and gloss to get Magic Carpet looking beautiful for years to come.
Baby, you are really hurting me. I know you play your part, but baby, it's breaking my heart. How could I know? If you don't need me, just let me know and I'll go.
Alright, I'm gonna step outside for a minute so I can evaporate. I have saturated all the pieces with clear penetrating epoxy. It has taken about 4 to 5 coats, it just keeps sucking. And then I've left them for 2 days just to cure so that I could sand it lightly, what I did just now, with 320 grit, really fine. And that was really just to take some edges off and to have a better surface moving forward. The next thing is clear penetrating epoxy again, but that is because the last coat should be fresh and not sanded, and it acts as a primer for the varnish moving on. And tomorrow, without sanding, without prep, we continue right away with 2-component Epiphane varnish.
But baby, it's breaking my heart. How could I know? If you don't need me, just let me know and I'll go.
So yes, Aladino is about to apply some 2-component varnish to all these beautiful pieces. The epoxy has dried and now the 2-component varnish can go right over top. After a few coats of the 2-component varnish, it's time for some 1-component varnish. And
The epoxy has not actually dried.
Oh,
this
okay.
Is a very slow curing epoxy.
Okay. Yes,
But it
correction.
has been there one night and now it can be seen as a primer. And not only will the 2-component adhere mechanically, but also chemically, because it still is a little tacky, so to speak.
What he said. Okay. Oh no! Aladino applied 2-component varnish with the painstaking attention to detail he is now known for. Unsurprisingly, it looked great.
Also, I have made a little custom tool, but this is to be able to varnish in the groove here.
That's so cool, Dean.
Yay! Well, I just recycled the old one that I used before. I cut it into pieces and now it fits.
You're so genius with things like this. That's awesome. Unfortunately, around this time, I ended up getting really sick with a flu that didn't let up for over 2 weeks. So I was out of commission, and the filming slowed down drastically even though Aladino did not. Sometimes he'd set up a GoPro time-lapse to record his efforts. So let's see what we've got.
Coming in quick, a little low in time. Gonna catch you just right, pull you up to outer space. Wasn't that a good day? Red guitar, purple haze, stick love in the ball was all you needed. How you did? Sing me back, mama, sing me back. black dog in a hole to put your feet in. Sing me back, mama, sing me back, 'cause I'd give it all and more to have that. Oh, one day. Isn't that a wonderful feeling? Throw some burning heat in. You can hear that whip crack from a mile away. Wasn't that a good day? Red guitar, purple haze, and the band plays all really needed. How I need it. Sing me back, mama, sing me back, 'cause I'd give it all and more to have that. Oh, one day. 'Cause I'd give it all and more to have that. Oh, one day.
After many weeks of painful preparation, it is time for transformation. So today we are ready, we are committed. I don't know if we're ready, but we said we gotta go, we gotta do this now. And we are applying the stain on the cabin top. That is the duty of the day. It is nice and sunny outside. You don't want the sun to shine on it, but it still helps a little bit when the temperatures are better. Not for the stain. Anyway, what am I babbling? Shall we go and do this?
There is a color difference between the front piece, which is a veneer, and the sides, which are solid mahogany. We're hoping to even that out as much as possible with the stain, although it probably won't get completely even.
That looks really nice. Yeah, I love how it brings out the grain. Yeah, that color difference is still gonna show up pretty stark, I think.
We did get the color match pretty close, but I was still pretty out of it from the flu and forgot to get good B-roll at this stage. Don't worry, we'll show more later. For now, while the stain dries, Aladino is ready to move his attentions back to the decks.
Another step in the process after removing our teak decks now is adding a layer of fiberglass. That is because the gel coat has many cracks at the moment. So the glass that we're adding is not structural per se, it's not needed for strength, but all those hair cracks, if we were to only add paint over it now, my experience is that the cracks appear again on the surface. So it would be a matter of 1 year or two and we have the hair cracks again in the new finish. So to stabilize the surface, we are adding a very thin sheet of fiberglass. my CNC pre-cut glass that I ordered. I ordered from the Tooth Fairy that works till midnight.
No, you cut this last night
Yeah, I did.
with our friend Harley.
Yeah, thanks Harley. That was helpful. And maybe for our European friends who want to take on similar endeavors, this is the name of the place where I source epoxy products and fiberglass. They are based in Germany and you can find everything you need for your projects.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored, but handy for these projects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about this self-confident girl? Guess you really need to be with her. She's so clever and so strong. Will you really need to? Will you really need to meet her? All men are upset. It's a pure necessity to worship her.
Done as easy as that. And our decks have a layer of fiberglass, literally. But the epoxy is missing. So let's get on with it.
Oh, that girl, she's on top of the world. Her name is Edith. A number one. She's brighter than the sun. Her name is Edith.
This was a long day's work. We have fiberglassed the decks and put putty over it.
So then, after sanding the putty and after applying lots of Smith's epoxy to the cabin top, it's time to finally inch closer towards that really rewarding stuff. The stuff where all our efforts begin to actually look good.
The varnishing tent is up.
Ta-da!
She's on top of the world. Her name is Edith. A number one. She's brighter than the sun. Her name is Edith. Oh, that girl, she's on top of the world. Her name is Edith. A number one. She's brighter than the sun. Her name is Edith.
Varnish went on, and then it was lightly sanded to create a perfectly smooth surface ready for the next coat. Like the other pieces, there will be multiple coats of 2 component, followed by 1 component, for maximum brilliance and protection. And meanwhile, Magic Carpet's interior became a dust-free as possible varnishing station for the other pieces. Even Magic Carpet's bottom got some nice new paint.
Clap your hands and you'll feel stronger. Tomorrow you get another chance. Don't blame yourself under the circumstances. Tomorrow you'll get another chance. Take control of your feelings. You know you've been dreaming. Where are the loving words? Where have
To top it all off, the deck's got some beautiful white color.
When all is done, you'll be a winner. Don't lose yourself under the weight. When all is done, you'll be a winner. You wake up screaming, you know you've been dreaming. Where are all the loving words? Where have all your sweet dreams gone now? Change everything. Just go through the transformation.
From the beginning, where we had a deck with 842 holes in it and a bare wood cabin top, to now, with a reinforced deck, new paint, new anti-fouling, and gleaming varnish, it feels like we've come a long way. And of course there's still more to do, like installing the port lights and stanchions and everything else that we've removed from the boat. But the finishing touches will have to wait. Next summer, Magic Carpet will be our home once again, as we sail her through the waters of Northern Europe, exploring small islands and communities along the way. But until then, there's a long winter ahead, and we'll be spending that winter seeing some family and returning to Magic Carpet 2 in the USA. Everything we're doing right now has a long-term plan attached to it, and although it may seem strange or disjointed in the moment, I think that's because life usually is a bit strange and disjointed. It doesn't all fit into a perfect story for YouTube. At least for now, we've got several stories unfolding in our lives. The story of our new boat, slowly getting closer to the ocean. The story of this boat, our original beauty, where it all began. And of course, the story of our actual lives, our family and friends and personal histories, which we always want to keep front and center to our own lives, but not necessarily front and center to the YouTube screen. We are, after all, people just like anyone else. So Magic Carpet 1 will stay here for now, awaiting our return. Magic Carpet 2 will be seeing us shortly. And in the meantime, there's people to see and places to go. But don't worry, you're coming for part of that adventure too. Next week, we'll have more tales from around the world. Thank you so much for watching. It is really so wonderful for Aladino and I to have an audience like you guys, so thanks for being here. If you enjoyed the video, please do give us a thumbs up and leave a comment letting us know what you thought. Even though we don't reply to them all, we do read all the comments. An extra big thanks to our patrons for making all of these episodes possible. And an extra big thanks to these folks who always go the extra mile to make sure that Magic Carpet keeps being produced. We will see you all next Friday.